Back here again, the All Things Arkansas Football Show, joined by Trey Biddy. We got two Treys and Peyton Hillis. Peyton, you remember this guy covering you, or is it just a blast from the past, one too many hits to the head?
The prior. Definitely the prior.
He introduced himself to me and said, "Nice to meet you."
Yeah, we are.
Hey, I was polite.
We're peeling.
We're
peeling back the curtain here. Trey's like, no, I covered you. What'd you say? 2004 was your first season?
2003.
I listened.
Yeah.
See, I listened.
Calm down. Don't eat the mic. Trey, dude, been wanting to get together with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking some time. As we mentioned here, the two Treys. I'll find out how much Arkansas actually paid you to play football before I find out what this guy's real name is. Us Treys are kind of secretive with how that all goes down.
Well, if you find any money, you let me know about it.
I still do not believe you that you have not been paid.
Hey,
That some booster at 21st Amendment or whatever the bar was, that, hey, $500, that's
I still believe in honor, Trey. Okay, so leave me alone.
There wasn't 21st Amendment back then.
well,
We had
whatever.
like 3 bars. On
Whatever it was. Trey, let's get into some things, man, about your background, some stuff that really people
Okay.
don't really get to hear about. How did your media space, your love for Arkansas, dude? How did it all happen?
Well, I grew up. I went to elementary school in North Little Rock and Sheridan for high school, and went to the University of Arkansas. Came up here in '96, and just have always. I don't know. I don't remember not loving Arkansas athletics.
Not many people do this as long as you've done it. Was this always your? You've
No.
really considered doing anything other? The Cowboys, the Chiefs. Is there another dream? Baseball, whatever.
No, I mean, I figured pretty early that this was my spot. I mean, I'm an Arkansas guy, and my wife's from Arkansas. My family's all here, and I'm lucky enough to own my own business. So you can do well enough if you in the media space if you do that. And it's just. To be honest, I don't know if you've ever read the book Outliers before, but sometimes you just got to be in the right space in the right time. And I just happened to be born at the right time. I was born in a time, and I came into the profession when, the internet sites were starting to, take off, and it just things started just happening. I don't really even know that I planned any of it. So
the internet changed everything. Peyton, some would say though, maybe the internet changing things for the worse at times.
Definitely at times, especially. For college sports, most definitely.
And money and the internet, such a game changer. One thing before we start talking about some Arkansas football, the walk and talk, which I feel has become the voice of the Arkansas people. How did this all start? I see it almost every week.
Peyton, have you ever seen it? Never seen it.
No, sir. I have not seen
There's still meat on the bone.
We're working on it. We're working on it. I mean, what you get some of these videos, 40, 50,000 views, which
some of them more.
As you live in this space, that's a massive number
across all platforms. I mean, I think I've had one reach 100,000. It's been very popular to most people, Peyton. But I started doing.
I bet Darren McFadden watched it.
Easy. Listen.
Houston Nutt called me one day. Houston said, "Trey." He said, I picked up the phone. I was in the shower, and there was a Texas number on there, and I've been trying to get a hold of this guy from Texas. Like, oh, this is the guy. So I hop out of the shower real quick and shower off, and I pick up, and he goes, "Trey Biddy." And I was like, "Houston?" I hadn't heard from him forever, and he was like, I was watching through YouTube.
How everybody consumes content nowadays.
But no, I started doing that I don't think I even planned to do it. I was doing stand-ups after the game. And
did it start with the Chad Morris around that time?
It was actually, I started doing stuff a little bit before that. I was doing stand-ups, and I would, find myself just kind of grabbing the tripod. I was just doing it with the phone. And, pointing to stuff or where something happened. And then I was doing just Facebook Q&As. I was answering questions after press conferences, and I would just kind of walk around and answer the questions on my phone, just kind of walking in a circle. And one day after a game, I was like, instead of doing a stand-up, I was like, I'm just going to walk to my car and do it. And I've been doing it that way ever since, yeah. People loved it.
There's a lot of anger in there, though.
There's a lot of
really authentic.
Sometimes I don't feel angry when I start, and I will talk myself into it.
I think the Notre Dame one this year is that, am I right? That was the one you're pretty.
I don't remember.
Pretty angry.
What's funny is when I get done with them, I'll be like, oh, that sucked. That was stupid, and people will be like, that's my favorite one, so. Because sometimes I don't really even know what I just said, or people will comment afterwards, like, hey, you didn't talk about this, and I'm like, well, it's just a reaction. I don't have like a list of things to talk about. It's just wherever it goes. But I've been doing drive time sports for over 20 years, and drive time, I just do it remotely. I have a, just a headset, but I walk, I do my best stuff when I walk. I probably should walk right now, but I find myself just kind of, it just creates a stream of consciousness or something. And I'm just walking and talking, and I don't know.
You mentioned Houston Nutt. Peyton's been a champion for Houston Nutt to come back to Arkansas in some role, as so many people I have, and do something to help with fundraising.
I mean, most definitely. I think that, the accent, the impersonation was great, by the way.
Thanks.
It was right on point. But as far as a guy that knows how to win hearts, and a guy that knows Arkansas, that loves Arkansas, he would do his best, I would love to see him as athletic director. Or like a Tim Horton even.
Yeah, I don't think he can be athletic director, but something close to that.
Why not?
Because it's too much of a business. You need a master's now. I don't think there's any athletic director in the Big Ten of the SEC that doesn't have a master's. You're talking billion-dollar business now.
Really? So
Barry Alvarez, is he still at Wisconsin AAD?
I don't believe so.
But he was for a long time. But you're
and
right.
Frank for 30 years.
So
there's been a change.
Hunter Yurichek, do you not think that there's a guy out there that may not have his degree as far as a stature of a college level that can do better than he can?
Trey's going to agree with me on this one.
Oh, easy.
People may not love Hunter Yurichek, and I know the reseeding thing, that's a problem. My understanding, and I would like to hear Trey's opinion, what his understanding is, they're not having a problem raising money.
Right.
They're doing it at a very high level. Now, is it at the level of Georgia, Texas A&M? No. But an athletic director's job is to raise money, and Hunter's doing that.
No, he is. He catches a little more hell than he probably deserves. Some of it is, people didn't want to support Sam Pittman. They would not support him financially. Yeah. And, I think that there are some other things political at play. There's been some things that he's said that he probably shouldn't. I'm not like saying that, he's done this amazing job in front of a camera.
You're talking about the Little Rock Touchdown Club thing like that.
Little Rock Touchdown Club.
He really stepped in.
He should have qualified that at the end of saying that. He could have said what he said, but he should have finished it with, and this is how we're going to fix it. And he didn't do that, and he caught a lot of hell over that. Some of the stuff he's done said with the College Football Playoff Committee, people just kind of almost feel like they waiting for him to say something, and just pile on him. But, since Sam Pittman was fired, they have done, in my opinion, a good job fundraising and getting things back in order. And also, I think, some of the things that the Board of Trustees has done, the $15 million resolution, I was disappointed that wasn't closer to being unanimous. No matter what has been said about it. It was
only
just
passed by one vote, right?
It was
it's 6-4. It wasn't. It was 7-3.
7-3.
It's 6-4. Would it have passed?
I don't. Does it have to be?
I don't know if it had to be one above 5-5 or if 6.
I think it was closer to being 9-1, and then you got some cold feet or something.
People didn't want to look bad.
Yeah, but the university, like poking your chest out about being self-sustaining as an athletic department when you have a mediocre or bad football program is ridiculous. Like that's nothing to be proud of.
I wonder. If we are raising this money you speak of, do you know where it's going?
Yeah, well, you've got to boost your overall budget for athletics, but like everything from improving your team travel, from whatever they're using, Sun Airlines.
I heard
or something.
they were Peyton and I think talked about this off the record. I heard they were using a discount airline.
Yes,
and that pissed the players off. Things like seeing ashtrays in the seats, and the seats wouldn't go back, or even as simple like, I know you're an old school guy. This may bother you. Kids want Wi-Fi on a plane.
Right.
Really simple things. Also heard something about the hotel they stayed at in Little Rock wasn't the one they've typically used.
Yeah.
Optics are so important. And I know they smashed Arkansas State, but if you really think about it, what kind of happened? So you naturally, whenever I start to hear these kind of things, it's like, well, did they get in their own head?
Yeah.
You start to lose some players by some of these things, which crazy to me where the season went after that Ole Miss game, because they were right there.
Yeah, well, there's that, and there's the recruiting budget. Obviously, you improve that. You improve your assistant coach salary, which I guess they've lost 2 coaches now, but when they had the full staff, they were, $2 million more with the assistant coaching staff. So that was really the thing that we were able to look at and say, okay, they've clearly, improved this area. And then there's also, you have to carve out $20.5 million for revenue sharing, and that's only going to go up. So you needed more money for that also. But, all of those things. And, I mean, I think it's clear from the level of player. I'm sure we'll talk about transfer portal stuff, but the players that they got, is it a $40 million, NIL revenue sharing budget? No. Is it $25 million? I think it might be. I think you're probably allocating about $14.5 million to football from revenue sharing, and then you're raising probably 10.5 in NIL. So, and that when they said we're going to get to the upper half of the SEC, to me, I'm thinking, okay, they need $25 million. And I feel like that's about where they're at.
Yeah, and Indiana wasn't at the top of the Big Ten, and look what they did. And it was interesting that question came up at the press conference with the assistants and Ryan Silverfield saying, like, hey, look at Indiana. They were down. They came back. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, but how do you quantify a good season? To me, it's 6-6.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, can you be 5-6 heading into that finale against LSU? I know there's so much gray area there, but how would you define a good first year?
Well, first years are difficult. It's easier now, I think,
no question,
than with the old
way
calendar.
less excuses. Yes.
Right, way less excuses, because you have been, you were here a full month. You've been able to get your ducks in a row. Versus in the past when you had a coaching change, it was, like
months.
Everybody's gone off your roster. You don't have time to bring anybody in, but they have all that. So, but it is still year one. You're implementing your scheme, your culture, all of those things. I think it's difficult to judge a coach on year one, but 5 or 6 wins, I don't think is out of the question or should be viewed as like being, I don't know what I'm looking to say. But
I actually don't think the schedule's that bad either.
I think it's always going to be tough.
Of course. Yes.
But I think that
I don't think it's that bad. I don't.
It's a tough one.
It is
a lot tougher than we had last year.
But it's always always
you
tough.
don't know.
Vanderbilt on the road, that's a winnable game. I think, A&M, they are what they are. That's a tough.
Yeah,
game.
but you got to look
LSU.
at the future. Like the team
They
that
can
you're
win at
playing
Utah.
is going to be better than they were the year before. I don't see Vanderbilt really going down. I mean, they got to find a quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't really know who their quarterback's going to be. But with that coach, I do not see them being much worse than they were last year.
The big pivot point to me, I think, is the Utah game. If they beat Utah, I think, like, all right, maybe they can get to 6 games.
Yeah. But that's, and I get in trouble like saying stuff like, I think they'll be okay here. I think they'll be good here, and stuff. And I really just mean like average, like they're not going to have a big deficit at this position group, and but yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking like 6-6 or something, or 5 wins, that's a step in the right direction for year one of a coach. And then you expect more. I don't think it's ridiculous beyond year one for Arkansas fans to expect or to go 500 in conference. Of course, that's changing with a 9-game schedule, but
4 and 5 in conference, whatever.
4 and 5 in conference, win your non-conference games every other year, win your bowl game every other year. To have 7, 8, 9 win seasons, I don't think that is asking too much of fans.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out there. Like, for instance, for as long as I can remember, every year that Arkansas has coming into football season, oh my gosh, they're going to win 7, 8 ball games.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the greatest, and they never do. Or sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. Every year it's always expectations up here. Why don't the fans have an expectations like put up or shut up? Like, I know that every year now can be different on a big spectrum. Like this year we could win 9 ball games. I mean, I'm not saying that we are. I'm just saying with the money and how the college football is now, you can bring in talent every year, and you can have a totally different team than the year did before. I mean, you can have a better team, but from Arkansas, I think the fans should look at it like put up or shut up. Let's see what you produce on the field and stop having these high expectations. I think the fans need that for them to move forward, and to hope to build a better team instead of expecting all these green pastures when there's not.
You raise a great point. So I want to set this up to you. Trey, when Houston got fired, they were playing 11 games. And what it really was is, no, we believe we're better than a 7-4 program. When Brett Bielema got fired, it was, no, we believe we're better than a 6-6 every year kind of program. How did we get to this point?
Yeah. Well, it was difficult firing your athletic director and your head coach in the same year. And
when Bielema.
Right. When Bielema was fired, and they ended up hiring Chad Morris, who was a disaster. I've never seen a team so divided, just from the offensive coaches, the defensive coaches, the old guys, the young guys, the offense, the defense. It was just.
Is it fair to say the program's still trying to recover from that era?
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
Just,
Sam Pittman was.
The stadium was empty
Yeah,
when that happened.
it was. Sam Pittman was, in theory, the right guy at the right time. I mean, they competed in 2020. You know, they could have easily won more games. They didn't, but they were in the mix for some. But there was a feeling of resurgence, and then that next year when they won 9, the problem that Arkansas did, and we talked about Hunter Yurachek, and part of that is Hunter Yurachek, is they did not capitalize on that 9-win season from a fundraising NIL standpoint, and they just kind of they went the other direction. The more NIL got involved,
Weren't really ready for it, right?
They weren't ready for it. The more NIL got integrated into college football, the worse Arkansas got. Really, I mean,
and it's crazy to me to see brands like Ole Miss and Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
They do not have brands like Arkansas.
Ole Miss
Have
fans were
great seasons.
super proactive. Not that Arkansas fans weren't, but they got that Grove Collective thing going, and they struck lightning with Lane Kiffin. I mean, they just did. Arkansas was right there in the mix for him and didn't hire him. Like, it's just
Don't.
it's a series. There's just a series of bad decisions, that we've seen throughout the history of Arkansas football. You can go back to, you can call it a decision, but Bear Bryant was going to be the coach at Arkansas, and then World War II happened.
Was he at A&M then, or was he at Alabama?
No, that was before Alabama.
Okay, so he's still at A&M.
Yeah. So even if he was at, I don't even know if he was at A&M then. I don't think he was at
Kentucky was before A&M.
I'm not sure on the timeline there, but we're talking 1942.
World War II.
So that was a long time ago. But, and you can't say like Jimmy Johnson, because Kim Hatfield was a great coach here and is a great Razorback still around the program and stuff. The Gus Malzahn thing. Like, you can go, like, let's talk. This is back to Peyton's era here, but, Gus Malzahn, Houston Nutt didn't want to hire Gus Malzahn. Frank Broyles forced that on Houston. And then the next thing Houston Nutt, tells him, hey, I've got another guy I'm bringing in, David Lee, and Malzahn leaves for Tulsa. And then when Malzahn leaves Tulsa, he goes to Auburn to be offensive coordinator. He recommends that Tulsa hires another high school coach and Chad Morris. And then Malzahn goes to Arkansas State, then goes back to Auburn as head coach. Morris leaves Tulsa, gets the Clemson job, parlays that into the SMU job, and then comes back around full circle, and Arkansas hires Chad Morris. Arkansas did all of this to themselves.
There's no doubt about that. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's just
I'm sorry.
it's crazy to me how much
during
your
that
expectations
time,
have changed.
during the time I was here, do you felt like when Malzahn was being hired here, that was the time when they were trying to push Broyles and Houston Nutt out the door, even the year before he signed him?
It started. There was definitely, you'd go around and you'd hear, different places, people talk about bringing Gus Malzahn in, hire Gus Malzahn, bring him into Arkansas, bring the Springdale 5 in.
And at a time when the high school thing didn't really happen, the jump from high school to college.
Right. That was not common at the time. We've seen it obviously happen since then, but it was not common.
No.
And Peyton, how divided everybody was over that whole thing. I know people were upset just about the amount of publicity that the Springdale 5 players got, and Mitch was a good enough quarterback, but Damian was really the only guy who was that NFL type of player out of that whole group. But it took the whole state by storm, and then it was a lot of pressure on Mitch, and at the same time you've got Peyton and Felix and Darren, running the ball, and like we're not gonna put the ball in their hands. Like, what do we?
You can talk all the crap you want about Gus Malzahn and the infighting. They won 10 straight games.
Yeah.
I think I've heard you say this. I don't know what the year was. Must have been that season.
But we still
was 2007.
we still ran
2006,
Nutt's
excuse me.
offense.
You're on the sideline. I think
that spring was all Gus, was it not?
Yes, it was.
And then the season came around, and it turned into Houston Nutt.
Well, see, this is what I found like kind of funny about the whole situation is they were wanting to bring him in after Nutt lost my freshman and sophomore seasons, winning 3 or 4 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they bring Malzahn in, and Coach Nutt starts winning, and then my junior and senior year, but they kind of gave the credit towards Gus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even though, like, I don't see a lot of coaches that have, a couple of losing seasons, then gets back to grace, winning 9-10 ball game. Houston Nutt did that. I mean, he really did do that, and he ran his offense once we were in it. And so what I was kind of wondering, not on the level of the team or the coaches, the players, I was talking about the top echelon of who makes the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when were they trying to push Broyles out? And if they were trying to push Broyles out, was that why they were trying to hire Gus Malzahn, just because maybe Broyles didn't want him, but everybody else above him did? Or what do you think about that?
I think it's when things aren't going well, the first step that's made is you got to hire an offensive coordinator, or you got to make changes with your staff, that kind of stuff. And the thing was, Houston was actually, kind of promised in a way when he didn't take the Nebraska job, because he almost took the Nebraska job. I mean, they had a plane here in Fayetteville to come pick him up. And what he had said was, and part of the condition of him returning, in addition to getting a raise, which I think it was almost $1 million back then. But
I think Frank never made more than $200,000.
Yeah.
Which, what a change.
Yeah. So, but part of it was, they had the Ted Herod scandal from there was a recruiting cloud over Arkansas for like 3 years, and it ended up being a slap on the wrist. But they were like overpaying athletes and all that kind of stuff for working at for his company.
Typical college stuff.
Yeah, and
Peyton Hillis getting
it was again a 3-year NCAA investigation into it, and that investigation really hurt Arkansas way more than any penalties. But it hurt a couple of recruiting classes and back then, your recruiting classes were everything. Like, you couldn't just pop in the portal and get guys. So that was part of the stipulation with Houston. Like, hey, I need a couple of years to rebuild this roster. And so that's, where Peyton's first couple of years came in. They just, couldn't get over the hump. Even, when Darren came in as a freshman and ran for, 1,100 yards, just couldn't get over that hump. And then that next year, they finally put all the pieces together, and, there was that tough game against USC, Darren's toes halfway off. And then I remember that Auburn game, and it just kept rolling and rolling.
Yep.
You guys
smashed Alabama there, didn't they?
My senior year, we lost.
No, Alabama in 2006 was that overtime game.
Okay.
That was actually Mustaine to Ben Cleveland.
Last year of no Saban.
Yeah. I remember I was down on the field. I think about that game every once in a while because I was down on the field, and it was going into overtime and stuff. So I was down. Usually we're just down like last 5 minutes, and I was down there forever. And I remember after that pass was caught, and the kicker, I feel like his name was Tiffin or something for Alabama, kept missing kicks. And after it was over, I just remember feeling that roar. And Peyton, you probably used to feeling that all the time, but just that roar of the crowd on top of you. And sometimes I think about that, and I've been down there field level, and they're just getting their asses kicked,
Getting chills.
And I'm just looking up at the crowds and just thinking, man,
how did this happen?
Yeah, it's just so much different. But yeah, that was a really fun season. I mean, and the next season was too. It was just more. They won 8 games that year, beat LSU.
Yeah, you had 6, 7, and then 8 is a hard reset. 9 is really exciting. 10 and 11, they tie or set the record for most wins in school history. Peyton kind of disagrees with me. I think Arkansas has tried. Like the Bielema thing, there was a big investment there. Huge investment.
Okay.
And he was a hot coach.
This is my issue with Bielema. He tried to bring his style of football to the SEC.
And it worked for a while.
Listen, hold on. No, it didn't. It did. It didn't happen to the big teams in the SEC with the caliber of players that they could get. The Alabamas and the Auburns at that time.
14 and 15, they could have beaten every team they played. They were in every game.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you.
Trail back, man.
Well, so that was Dan Enos' year. That was the year that they lost to Toledo also. That was the problem with Bielema is he had opportunities, just like you mentioned, they could have won all these games. If Bielema wins 10 games, which he easily could have that year.
Either of those years, really.
And the next year wins 9, like they easily could have. They blew huge leads against Missouri and Virginia Tech in that bowl game. Then when the next year happens and Austin Allen gets hurt and the season doesn't go well, he survives that year.
He would have had enough equity. Yes.
He would have had enough equity to survive that year. But they lost to Toledo that game. They put up a ton of yards. They couldn't put it in the end zone. They lost on that field goal to Mississippi State, but they also had the miracle game against Ole Miss that year. But that team also had some talent. You go back and look at that
Multiple
2015
NFL
roster.
players.
Like, you could play just about anything you want with that.
Two
with that
NFL
roster.
running backs, multiple.
I would
NFL
argue
players on
that
defense.
that year probably had the most NFL talent maybe that Arkansas has had. When you look at top to bottom, because I mean, you're going even in the freshman classes and all the way up to the senior class. There's a lot of guys that played in the NFL.
Okay, well, you say if Toledo,
Yeah,
if
there's a lot of ifs
Mississippi
and buts.
State. Look at
Hey,
this
if-
past year.
If Arkansas would have
Hold
beaten
up.
Ole Miss, maybe they win 6
Hold
or
up.
7 games
Hold
this
up.
year. Yes.
Could we not potentially had 8, 9, 10 wins this past year?
Sure.
Okay, but you're
This
not
is the
going to
best
say
2 and 10 team in
But
college
I don't
football
think
history.
anybody would have said, "Man, that was
My
a
buddy
great team."
Josh Pate makes a good point. He says when people says, "Oh man, we should have won," he goes, "No, you could have won."
Yeah. You're right. You're right. That's right.
Pate's the man, dude. He's killing
Thanks.
the game.
Thanks, Trey.
You're the man. Too. you mentioned the Toledo game. Has Arkansas played its last game in Little Rock?
I think that's possible. I just think, and I hate that because Peyton, you're from Conway.
What are you shaking your head for?
Well, he's from Central Arkansas.
You're,
he grew
you're
up.
only getting 6 home
He
games
knows.
a year.
He went to high school in Sheridan.
Yeah.
He went to
I-
school in North Little Rock. Listen, hold
I
on.
love
You
the
don't
tradition.
know. You're from Boston.
I'm
Hold on
I'm
for a
from
second.
Pittsburgh. Don't get it twisted.
Okay, sorry.
I
Pittsburgh.
love the tradition, but I understand that the times change.
Yes.
That's nothing against Little Rock.
There
That's
is
not
a
the point.
difference.
Alabama
There
used to
is-
play in Birmingham.
There is a difference in fans. When you cross, let's say, Clarksville South, it's just different fans, die-hard fans.
Yeah.
And when you play at War Memorial, it is a different feel. It is just something spectacular.
And
I cannot explain it.
And I do not disagree. I've been there. I've been there for some electric environments, and I know that they built the foundation of the program on the back of that stadium in Central Arkansas because it was easier for teams to get there. It was more city, more hotels, all that stuff. I understand it. But unfortunately, times have changed.
Yeah,
and it's hard for Little Rock, too, to invest
It
in the
makes
stadium.
sense that this organization moves far from its roots, right? That's what we need.
But look, dude,
That's what we
But
need.
times just change. And
So what?
Like, I can't keep trying to use a pager or I can't keep trying to use a payphone. Times change. And is it a never say never thing? You think maybe in the next,
I was
next 5 years, maybe?
I held on to the idea that Arkansas needs to play in Little Rock probably longer than most because I do have the roots there. But I do agree with Trey in that it is time to move on from that.
Why?
And just because I think there's a lot of inherent disadvantages.
You can make more money here.
You can make a lot more money, not just in seating, but also luxury seating, recruiting. And I will say this: it shifts back a little bit towards Little Rock when you remove that A&M game because you would be playing home games against Texas A&M in Arlington and then playing a home game in Little Rock.
Yeah.
And that's a major recruiting disadvantage also because you can give an athlete a ticket, but you can't talk to them. You can't show them around campus. You can't show them the facilities, So there's that recruiting disadvantage. And sometimes, at Arkansas, you're playing an 11 o'clock game. You may be stuck with a game in Arlington, a game in Little Rock, and then when you finally get a home game, it might be at 11 o'clock, and you're not getting a kid from Texas, who played a game Friday night on the road to get to Fayetteville, So there's some recruiting disadvantages, I think, with playing in Little Rock, and obviously financial is a big part.
Why
of it.
is everything about money? Because I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have the money.
You can't run a
We didn't
business
have-
and lose money. You just can't.
Okay, if this is a business, like
And
you say
Arkansas
it is,
used to make more money and enhance its brand by playing there. And I want to be clear. I love the people in Little Rock. I know what that game means. I know what it meant. I know how they built the program here. I know what the state fan base and the
I
interstate
felt that
system,
tug,
all
too.
that. I get it. It's not that I think, they're wasting their time. It's just times have changed. That's all.
I felt that tug that Peyton's talking about when I was parking in it was miserable parking. It's because they have one game a year. They don't, they're not prepared for it. But I was watching all these people walk and I'm just thinking, man, this person, I bet they're from Sheridan, or I bet this person's from West Memphis, kind of looking, being at the University of Arkansas, I know how everybody's kind of style is, from different parts of the state. And, I'm just thinking man, it's just a different group.
when you make it about money, though,
Yeah.
when you make it about money, you forget about the fans. You forget about the common man and what he does and what he brings to the table for this organization here. When you make it all about money, you forget what got you there. And I don't like that. Oh, fine. Times have changed. Fine.
Yeah.
But-
If it was up to me, I would say now that the LSU game, right? That's okay, because Thanksgiving weekend, these crowds.
That would be the one
these
game.
crowds have
to play
been
there
bad
if they were gonna
Thanksgiving
do it.
weekend. The campus is
Yes.
empty. So maybe once every 2 years, once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
However, economically, you can't sustain that stadium playing one football game there every 2 or 3 years. That playing 2 games a year, it was hard for them to sustain it.
But they also have to do better at Little Rock. And it's difficult because there's just one game. But like I've been there where they've like, hey, you can't park here. You can't come through here. And I was like, I've been coming through here for 20 years. But what do you mean? There's no other way for me to get to the press parking to this. Or
You were late for the game this year, right?
Almost. Yeah, I was almost late. I had to drive all the way back around Little Rock, basically, because they wouldn't let me go through. And that happened kind of last year, too. But, running out of water, the band not getting water, just the toilet's not working.
Why not make it like a neutral site for an Arkansas State game?
That would be an Arkansas,
maybe
Arkansas
once every
State.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, Pittman had said when he was coach that if he plays them, he wants to play them up there, but in up here in Fayetteville. But playing Arkansas State, I can understand that one, and playing LSU. Although I do think that that ticket will be hotter now. Just Missouri, Arkansas fans just would not embrace that as a rivalry game.
And neither would Missouri.
Right after. They would a little bit more, though, I think. I think that they would embrace it more. But Arkansas fans felt it like it was forced upon them, and they want that LSU game, and they feel like they were kind of robbed of it. But I feel like that's a hotter post-Thanksgiving ticket.
Yeah.
Than
But then
Missouri.
in fairness, LSU looked at Arkansas like, we don't want to.
Right. I
We
mean,
want A&M.
That's
or we
true
want Oklahoma,
across.
so.
I mean, that's how Ole Miss fans look at Mississippi State. A lot of people think Mississippi State's Ole Miss's biggest rival. They look at them as like a nuisance. And they look at LSU as their biggest rival, and
Alabama,
LSU looks at them like a
Ole
nuisance.
Miss hadn't had a lot to talk about besides like the past couple of years.
I mean, times have changed. Indiana, Ole Miss, these are the power brokers in college football.
Hey,
now.
well, Ole Miss can be humbled real quick. I mean, I thought they played well.
see.
I know. I'm just
they
saying.
did. They played for Pete Golding. They did, but we'll see.
I mean, it's a year-to-year thing now with how the money is.
Look at me and Peyton, how our arms are crossed, sending out this negative vibe, defending
not
Little Rock
defensive.
against the
not-
Yankee
No,
over here.
I want, again, it's for the third time. This is not they're wasting time in Little Rock. No, listen to the context.
It's money.
Yes,
Money.
it's hard. And if you're only playing in years where they're going to play 5 conference games on the road, you're talking 4 or 5 games in Fayetteville. That's just not enough.
I think about that 98 season a lot.
You sound like Houston. I think about that.
Well, when I start talking about 98.
Man, let me tell you something. He's
So,
good at it.
but when I start thinking about that, I was a student up at Fayetteville, and we'd been through 2 tough years. Danny Ford's last 2 years, and that '98 season was it was amazing. And there were
3 games at that time, right?
There were 2 games
Okay.
in Fayetteville
Oh,
that year.
okay. 3 games in Little Rock.
3 games in Little Rock, 2 games in Fayetteville. I think there was a game in Memphis that year.
Wow.
But I think back to that, and one of them was 42-6 against Alabama.
days.
Sean Alexander didn't want any, but that was a magical year. But there were no games in Fayetteville. But we also used as students, and back then most of the University of Arkansas was Arkansas people. Like I was a Phi Delta up here, and we had a guy from Houston, we had a guy from Sherman, Texas, and a guy from Pryor, Oklahoma, and everybody else in a 32-man class was from Arkansas. And we'd all just descend on Little Rock. When there were games played there, we packed the student section. We go to disco, we go to Sticky Fingers, just take over the town.
And the fan support there has really changed. My years here, that Monroe game, the Ryan Mallett Monroe game, banged out. It was a hot ticket. There was not a seat to be had. There was so much excitement, and it's faded. And part of it's faded because
That's when it started fading, though.
Well, they did. And in fairness to the people of Little Rock, like I don't expect them to show up for Pine Bluff from
Right.
Missouri State. So when the games
The
got
games
worse,
that- the games
what
haven't
did you
been-
expect to happen?
Right.
It's almost like it was by design. And then Juracek can throw up his hands and be like, well, hey, you people aren't showing up. I think it's more likely they'll play a game neutral site or against SMU at Cowboy Stadium before they go back to Little Rock.
Right. That discussion started happening when Arkansas expanded the south end zone and added the upper deck. That was 2001, 2000 maybe. The discussion started in 98 after that 98 season. So the discussion started in 99. But when Frank Broyles was presenting it at the time it was like all the games need to moved up here to Little Rock, or excuse me, to Fayetteville. And then they ended up, I think, doing 2 games in Little Rock.
I just ultimately, my stance is whatever is going to help the program win is what I want. And if that's playing all your games in Fayetteville, then so be it.
Well, I also hate the Little Rock versus Northwest Arkansas, Central Arkansas. I hate that.
It's kind of divisive, right?
And people have said, like, called me like, you're just a Northwest Arkansas. I was like, dude, I'm from Sheridan. Like, no, I'm not.
Did you not think there's a difference in fans though?
Oh, like, yeah, no question.
But I mean, then there has to be a difference then, right? If there
yes,
is.
there is. But I feel like for Arkansas, and, it's the same vision that Frank Broyles had in 1951. For Arkansas to reach a level, we all have to be kind of marching in the same direction. I'll bring up Josh Pate again, something he said when, his favorite trip was Fayetteville. I made sure that Josh Pate was well taken care of. Like everybody knew he was coming, all that kind of stuff, different restaurants.
Next time he's in town, let us know. We got to bring him on here.
So, but that was his favorite trip until he went to Lubbock, which I haven't been to Lubbock in a while, but Lubbock was not impressive when I've been there. I've heard they've made a lot of strides and stuff, but
Cody Campbell.
What I have been told, what Josh Pate said on his podcast was just like, it was like you take a Friday night high school football town and you multiply it times 100. And that's what Texas Tech is right now. It's just everybody marching in the same direction, everybody all in. And that's just what Arkansas has to be.
Is it realistic that Arkansas can be Texas Tech? Can they find a Cody Campbell, or is that just not?
Well,
feasible?
I mean, there are Cody Campbells in Arkansas.
Well, Walmart and Tyson, all that stuff. Those guys do give money.
They do. Right. They do.
Not everybody can give $50 million.
Right. I mean, I think that we're eventually moving into a time where there'll be private equity in college sports, and maybe that's when a billionaire looks at it and says, "Hey, okay, I want a college sports team."
It's a red flag. It's like, you're kind of like crying for help. Like, well, we can't find the money. How can we compete with those that have the money? What's your job as an athletic director, as administrator, as university, as people in the state to find the money?
To find the money, but I'm more talking about like eligibility stuff and like,
what would be your plan? 5 years to play 5. That's my call.
That used to be, if you took a medical red shirt, you could not have redshirted before. That actually, the first guy at Arkansas to take advantage of that was Kevin Richardson.
A 6th year.
He redshirted, went back to an injury year, and took a medical. It used to be you could not take that medical. Sometimes they would try to find stuff wrong with you from your freshman year if you played a couple of games. Mono is very popular. Yes. So, yeah, like, Tyler Wilson. Tyler Wilson didn't have that last year of eligibility without a medical red shirt. He played in 2 games as a freshman. So, yes, that I don't know if I would say I would bring back that rule, because I do like, hey, you got a year robbed from you because of an injury. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, if Trinidad Chambliss genuinely had a medical issue that, then I don't have a problem with him, I guess, getting a 6 year. But, for the people that get like 7, 8, 9 years because of injuries and stuff, I'm just like,
I would like to see
that
an age
sucks,
cap.
man. Tough deal.
I understand the change, but I don't think that if you play D2 ball, it should count.
Well, now junior college no longer counts.
Yeah. You say that shouldn't count either.
But here's my issue with it, why I think there should be an age cap. So if you go to junior college for 2 years, now you got 5 years to play in college. You're 24, 25 years old. You're kind of changing the spirit of college sports.
Well, you shouldn't have brought all this money
Monte
into
Harrison,
it, man.
31.
But I'm fine. I'm really fine with that. He's got 2 kids, married, a house. Millionaire from pro baseball.
Do you think they're going to unionize
the annulment and all that stuff?
He's using his NIL money to pay his alimony for his first life.
Do you think they're going to there's going to be some kind of union with the players,
some kind of collective bargaining?
But the colleges don't want. I don't know why, but they don't want it. They don't want
the colleges.
How are you going to get away?
The colleges
from that?
don't want them to be employees, and the athletes don't want to be employees, according to Greg.
The athletes have never had it better. Why would they want to be employees?
Right.
You got backup quarterbacks making $1 million.
Good athletes have never had it better.
Yeah,
the whole idea behind this transfer portal and NIL, all this stuff, it was like, well, coaches can leave whenever they want. Why shouldn't players be able to? But what they left out is good coaches can leave whenever they want. Bad coaches get fired.
Yep.
Bad players and average players now get fired
Well, we're just looking
because of the portal.
because of the portal.
the two coaches just left though. You know,
Yeah,
they signed. They had a commitment to come here. Then they had something better, and they left.
Yeah.
What are you teaching the players? I mean, if they can't do it, what they can do it, why can't I?
You got a thought on that, Trey? I think it's a bummer for Silverfield staff. That's
Yeah.
Not as much Marion Hobby, but Clint Trickett, they don't really have a proven quarterback. That's an important aspect to what they're doing. And I do not fault these guys. NFL's a lot of money there. Clint Trickett going to be an offensive coordinator at a Big Ten school.
Probably going to make $1 million. Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's
here.
an offensive defensive coordinator in the Big Ten of the SEC that's making under $1 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you have to apply that to the player. The Duke quarterback that went to Miami, he had a better job. He had a better offer, but they're like, no, you're here. No, I had a better offer there.
Miami did pay out the contract.
There's still got to be a buyout. Yeah, I mean,
Miami bought out that contract.
Yes, but what I'm saying is it doesn't seem as the same fairness to the player to do it as the coach.
So
Still.
I thought as much as you can peel back the curtain. How did this happen? Blindsided? You don't know. And,
I think
and where do they go from here?
what's
Where are they going
crazy-
to find a quarterback coach?
What's crazy when Ethan asked that question to Jim Cramsey,
I had no idea.
it pops up on our feed
Like a no-coast update.
in that moment. Like as Tim Cramsey's answering the question about Clint Trickett and having him as a former quarterback and all that kind of stuff and coaching the position, the news breaks but they knew that was coming. They knew that.
Tim Cramsey's answer didn't really seem
No.
to indicate that he knew it was
But he
coming.
moved on to Marcus Johnson pretty quick.
I was having that discussion with somebody. I was like, it's kind of odd. He really didn't talk about him by name. So it sort of. I did not have an update on my phone, so I wasn't aware of it at the time. But then coming out of the room, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What
Well,
happened?
I mean, so they had 12 assistant coaches, not including analysts or anything like that. So they did already have a defensive line coach. They, Cramsey did coach quarterbacks last year at Memphis in addition to being an offensive coordinator, which is usually what an offensive coordinator will do, unless they coach wide receivers or something like Gus did at Arkansas. But, so they're down to the rule used to be 9 assistants when you were playing, 9 assistant coaches. Then I can't remember, maybe it was 17 or 18, they moved it to 10 assistant coaches.
10 that can recruit, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's basically unlimited.
There's a lot of gray area with the analyst and grad assistants and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they took it off. It's because, you have people coaching that's, not supposed to be on the field and all that kind of stuff, and it just got hard to regulate, so they're like, do whatever.
You have reason to believe they'll add a coach?
I don't know that there's a rush to. I don't think that they could. I mean, there's probably a lot of coaches out there that, on the Clint Trickett came from the G5 level, it's not like he was at another SEC school. So I'm sure that they could find somebody if they wanted to.
He was the offensive coordinator at Jacksonville State, so had an okay job.
Yeah. It's crazy. I felt like I was just watching him on Last Chance U,
That's some of these junior college coaches, you gotta be
I remember
careful
when he
with
was
that
being recruited at Arkansas. He was a recruit. His dad was an offensive line coach, really good offensive line coach, and I think he was
Rick
at Florida
Trickett.
State. Yeah. And so he ended up signing with Florida State out of high school and then transferred to West Virginia. And I remember watching clips of that dude just getting knocked out cold and he ended up retiring because of concussions. But he would get just knocked out cold. It was kind of weird to see him kind of come full circle and end up at Arkansas.
You're a massive optimist with Arkansas football. I know how badly
I am.
I know how badly you want this program to
do.
be better. What are you seeing that you're liking?
Well, I think that they've put themselves in a position from the players that they've got to compete. And now I think it's up to coaching, culture, taking care of the football. Like it's one thing that Tim Cramsey talked about a lot that I'm just like, I mean, you cannot turn the ball over at the rate Arkansas does and also be a poor team at forcing turnovers. Arkansas was terrible, like 15th and 16th in both of those
Hadn't had a
categories.
turnover in a minute.
Yeah, it was bad. You're just, and for all of the things that Talon brings to the table, he just could not take care of the football, and you lost games because of that. And the 2 games that you should have won, you could have won.
Mississippi State and Auburn.
Mississippi State, no, excuse me, Memphis and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Those weren't on Talon.
LSU.
But Talon never led them down the field to a win late in the game.
No, Peyton and I
His
talked
entire
about this.
career.
Man, he was sensational. There's some breathtaking moments. But for whatever reason, when the game got tight late,
Yep.
Even the Tennessee game, he's on the sideline.
Whenever you felt the
their
pressure,
biggest
even
win.
through the TV, like he never came through.
Well, that was another problem. Like the Tennessee game, okay, so they go down and score. There's 5 minutes left on the clock. They got to get the ball back. And that was something that I remember talking with Danny West when the transfer portal, basically closed last year when there was no opportunities and they didn't have any more defensive linemen. And I was just like, damn, they're an injury away from being dramatically thin here. And that's what we saw. We saw, a true freshman on the defensive line against Tennessee. I'm looking at that defensive line. And I'm like, these guys are spent. There's a true freshman out there, and Tennessee just ran the ball.
And Memphis, too, at the end of that game.
Memphis
Arkansas wore down.
They turned the ball over, but they could have stopped him still.
I
that
still
dude
think
carried
Trino
him.
should have kicked the field goal at Tennessee, though. I think that would have probably.
I am
Change the
a
outcome.
proponent of taking points. I've been firm on that.
Sean Payton should have taken the points in the AFC Championship game, too. I think that they went into that game thinking, well, this game's going to be played in the 30s. We need points to win. But you got to understand time, score, situation.
Yeah.
A field goal's big here. We're playing on the road. Let's just, get it down to one possession kind of thing.
So to answer your question, though, on the roster, I think that they have put themselves in a situation, for the most part, to have enough talent to go out and compete if they can get all these other things in order, which, it's year one. That stuff sometimes takes some time. The one issue that I see, I'm not in love with everything they've done in the secondary, particularly at safety. There's not, Stoutmeyer from Colorado, he's got some experience. Christian Harrison, I think, is a good addition for them.
I had heard they really wanted this kid from Slippery Rock. And
really,
he was high on their list and it didn't come together.
There
That's what I heard.
There were a few guys at safety that they wanted that they didn't get. And that coaching clinic, being when it was, also threw a wrench in things because they'd missed on some guys at safety. And then they're just kind of left waiting for a few days because they hit a dead period in the middle of the damn portal, which is ridiculous. So, but what they did do, they went out and got some offensive linemen with experience. I think they did a good job bringing in some of the offensive linemen. They've got some talent at running back. Maybe it's not highly experienced, but running back is where
Jasper, Braylon,
you can
Smith,
you can come in at that position. Like you can run or you can't, right?
Well,
you got to improve in pass protection, all that kind of stuff. But if you can't run, then
being a running back now is not the same as it was when we were in college. I mean, you spread the field out, and now you're like a secondary piece. You're not a primary role in the system.
I'm worried about the defense just for no other reason than because it was so bad last year and there's so much turnover. And I think they have the most unproven situation at quarterback in the SEC.
Right, that's what I was going to get to. I think they did some good things at wide receiver, but what I really wanted to see them do, I mean, you got to spend $2.5 million and go out and get a proven winner quarterback, and they didn't do that. So all the investment that they've made into the roster at the most important position in all of sports, there's no more singular position more important than quarterback. They have some unknowns.
Well, and then as I was watching the interview a while ago, I mean, the offensive coordinator was saying, we're going to put a lot on the QB. We're going to put a lot on him where he's going to make a lot of decisions out on the field.
Better call the game on the field.
And I feel like that's kind of the problem that we have with the quarterback position nowadays, even at the NFL level. They put so much on these guys. Now you're talking about doing it to a kid.
Yeah.
In prime situations and in clutch situations, it kind of, I don't know. It may be great. I don't know. They may have a system and a culture that does that.
Am I right on this? Were there some rumors about maybe Sam Levitt? Or no, Josh Hoover, I believe they pursued. Right?
There was Caton Hauser at East Carolina was the guy that they had
like
zeroed in on, but Brett didn't let him leave Illinois without committing.
He's really conservative QB though. I watched him a lot last
I'm
year.
not
he's not that great.
Right.
I mean,
I'm not going like, oh my gosh, they could have got Caton Hauser. Like, I think he would have been fine and a proven guy. Braden Fuller has played a lot of football, obviously, but it's the Division II level. But Trinidad Chambliss came from Ferris State in the Division II level also. AJ Hill has got a lot of potential. But
top 100 recruit, I believe.
Yeah, he was close to it. But he's a big, strong-arm kid. But I've also it's so difficult to evaluate that position because there are so many guys out there that have all the physical tools, and then you see a guy that doesn't have those physical tools who is great.
It's about.
But you also
it's a system. Well, it's the system. It's all about managing the game. For some teams, if you're a running team, you want a guy that manages the game. Don't turn the ball over, and you can do well. But I mean, it seems like I don't know, with what we're trying to do, it seems like you really have to be somebody that move around the pocket and actually get some yards with your legs, and you're gonna have to start.
Well, you can also go through all spring and all of fall camp and say, okay, this is our guy, and be totally wrong.
Oh yeah,
because you don't hit him, you don't put him under real game pressure. Everything speeds up, as you know, in the game. But think about how many quarterbacks we see. Like, think about Stetson Bennett at Georgia. Like, they did everything they could not to have him be the quarterback, and he ends up winning him 2 national championships. Trinidad Chambliss this year,
I think
Austin Simmons was the guy.
Austin Simmons was their guy.
I think Chambliss is
Tom Brady.
spectacular. I think he could be.
Guys,
special.
Tom
Some great
Brady.
moments. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
If Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, who knows what the
I
Tom
think
Brady
maybe
story is.
if he was like drafted by Cleveland or something like that, I think he would have eventually made his way onto the field.
Oh,
But no, it was a
that's-
perfect destination for him
Right.
to be who he was.
that's every player, right? Like, you can take every player in history. If they get put on the wrong team at the wrong time, they're never anything. It's all about it's about luck. I mean, a lot of it is luck.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Especially
You found a good home in Cleveland.
No, I mean,
Made the Manning cover. Darren going to the Raiders just was not.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and even now, like, I wonder, he's getting 30, 35 carries a game in college. How would that go over nowadays in college football? Like, people like an Adrian Peterson, Darren McFadden type, they're like, hey, you're messing up my future here.
It can happen now because there's so much money in it, and they want to see points, and you can't hit the QB. They don't want to see people running the ball anymore. They want to see people throwing.
After that LSU game, the upset in 2007, I thought, like, McFadden's going to be the next Adrian. He's going to be bigger than Adrian Peterson. It just never quite took off. He had some injury problems.
Had some injuries.
Oakland was not the right destination, certainly.
Right. I went and watched him his rookie year. They played Kansas City. I think he had like 164 rushing yards in that game. That was like kind of his breakout game, but he still wasn't as fast as he was because he was injured. That
He was
even as a
always
rookie.
injured, yeah.
All right, just about out of time here, Trey. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on. Where can people hear your stuff? And I know your YouTube channel's super popular. The Walk and Talks every week. If you want to hear an angry Arkansas fan, Trey Biddy, where can we do it?
I'm not always angry. I usually start out happy, I go to the press conferences and I ask questions and stuff, and I'm like, fine, and then I get out and start talking, and the emotions get to me. But yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel, Hog Sports, HAWGsports.com. I'm on all the different social media platforms, and of course, Hog Sports, HAWGsports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go check us out over there.
Well, I guess I got one question. Who do you think is the diamond in the rough that we should be looking at this year that's going to make
For
big
Arkansas
headways?
football, diamond in the rough could be Braden Fuller, I guess.
A lot of experience.
You got a lot of
I have
experience.
to wonder about the arm talent. We haven't seen it yet.
Got to wonder about the arm talent. Diamond in the rough. It's interesting that
Chris Marshall?
you phrase it that way because, like, they either brought in guys that have been really productive in college, or they brought in guys that were really highly recruited in high school but haven't been productive yet in college, like maybe starting to get to that second, third year or so.
Jasper Parker.
Right. Jasper Parker, Zadavian Sims, Trajan Odom, so on and so forth. But so it's kind of hard to say, like, this guy's a diamond in the rough. Well, Trey, he was a top 100 recruit. Like, is that a diamond in the rough?
You think Arkansas has been more accessible media-wise under Silverfield? You expecting maybe the doors will be open a little bit more?
Maybe. I'm not expecting the same level of access that we had in the spring when Bobby Petrino got here. Basically, all the practices were open.
Even in fall camp, a week or two, they were open to the public.
Yeah, a little bit. A little less access in fall camp, though, than as would be expected. But and no access last 2 years during the season. But hopefully from a media, like, interview, press conference thing, yeah, I hope so. But I don't know. I'll say this: every coach that I have covered from Houston Nutt moving forward, there's been less access each time.
I do think that's changed with Ryan.
Well,
Ryan is really putting himself out there.
Cook just
early.
called me.
Early.
Cook just called me. He got hired, and he's like, "I'm making a call to you, and I'm making a call to all the other ex-players that y'all can come by anytime you want. Just give me a call." That's huge.
Okay.
I mean, no other coach has ever done that. I mean, even had the consideration to do that. And I mean, for what everything Silverfield's told me since I've met him and talked to him on the phone, everything he said he's made reality. So
And
he's
why
a man of
wouldn't
his
he?
word.
Why would you,
you
not
better
want?
make March 15th. You better be out there.
You don't
First
want
practice.
Michael Irvin on your sideline.
No, he wants-
slapping a belt against.
That was so cringe. So
I mean, I don't think nobody's that crazy to do that here. But no, he was even saying come to 6 a.m. workouts and stuff. I mean, he was saying come do all
maybe
of
give you
it.
a key to the weight room. Your biceps look a little small over there.
Oh man, I'm done lifting. I'm done with that. My neck and my back, everything's starting to hurt. now.
I hope the football team in particular means so much to the state economy.
Yeah.
And what we do, it's more fun if we could get in front of these people and not do it over the computer. So I get it. It's easy now. They're undefeated. You know what happens when you're 2-6 and you're trying to control the narrative. And then God bless them, Fernando Carmona and Xavier Sori are being pumped out there every week because they're afraid that somebody else could say something stupid.
Yeah, it's true.
Trey Biddy, thank you so much,
Yep,
man.
of course.
The best, the voice of the Arkansas people, the authority.
I don't know about that.
The Adam Schefter of Arkansas football, right?
He said that about the first guy we had in here too.
Right. Everybody gets that. Everybody's Adam Schefter.
You did. That was Brandon Marcello. He was national college football. College
Yeah,
football.
Brandon's a good guy.
Brandon's an awesome
He
dude.
was a nice guy. Yeah.
All right, man. Out of time this week. Thank you, guys.